Well, I'm doing this in my car, and I hope you guys can hear me. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are. I am in my car. It is 7 o'clock in the morning, and it just occurred to me to talk about this for a moment. I think it's really important to talk about this. I just, in the last week, have had several people call me and literally say, hey, how do you talk about this to an executive who's never heard about the principles? Or how do you talk to someone that's attempting suicide? You know, how do you talk about this stuff that with someone that's been wanting to attempt suicide or wants to make money with this, or however you want to see it? How do you? The question is, how do you talk about the principles? And then we do a variable called X, Y, and Z. Okay. Now, the way that I see it, and this is really important to me, is as soon as we start to give an arbitrary idea of a person, and we don't see that it's made up to begin with, we're going to be in the same thought-generated mess that the other person we're trying to get them out of. Okay? When we come into a conversation with, how do we help somebody that's, a billionaire that's wearing a purple shirt, and we think that's really where the problem lies, is who that person's identity is that we've decided to make up, is when we get into some serious trouble. Okay? Because if we don't see that our starting point has also been made up, our starting point is also a variable that can change in any minute. 1 minute we can see them as a business person, another minute we connect and they become a human just like us. We are trying to manage a variable that's non-existent. And then, of course, as soon as we go into a conversation thinking that the other person is a very important billionaire or a, suicidal something, and we don't connect to them because we're not seeing them as people, and we wonder why we're not resonating, then we kind of, have drinking our own Kool-Aid, sort of speak. So it's really, really important to step back and see that the person you're talking to is who they are. And you don't change your game plan because of an arbitrary idea of who you think that other person you're talking to is, or you think they are, or they need to be. And that's something that I've learned at the Recovery Center, because that's what I did for a long time, is how do I speak about the principles at a recovery center? And I realized that's just a complete crock of shit. The person I'm speaking to needs to hear truth. They don't need to hear the truth based on them being addicted to heroin for 10 years, or the truth changed a little bit because they make a little bit more money than me, or the truth, how it looks because the person in front of me is wearing a purple shirt and a green cap. Now, the last one sounds like I'm making a joke, but that's kind of what we're saying, right? It would be silly for anyone to say, how do you teach the principles with someone that's wearing a yellow shirt? You would say the same way you would do it with someone that's wearing a green shirt. But we see the arbitrariness of that. We see that that's a silly thing to say, that the color of their shirt is irrelevant to the message we want to convey. But for some reason, when it comes to humanity, the color of their bank account, the color of their skin, the color of their experiences, we find very valuable in the way that we need to approach it. And that's just as arbitrary as the color of their shirt. And to me, that is us not seeing, us not being in our clarity, us not being in our grounding, and us coming into the conversation already loaded with preconditioned thinking of how other people are. Now, granted, there's some truth to that when you say, they may not hear it, but that could be part of the conversation. So let me give you a solution. I would start any conversation with, listen, I'm in my head a little bit right now because you're a billionaire person that's made a lot of money. That's something I strive to do or whatever. So I'm going to be in my head about it, but I'm going to tell you how I see it anyway. So there's going to be some things you will not agree with, and that's okay. And there's going to be some things you may agree with, but this is where I stand right now. Right now I'm a little bit nervous because you're a captain of the Air Force, or I'm nervous right now because you're chief of the police station. I'm nervous because you're a billionaire, but I'm going to tell you the truth as I see it anyway. Are you open to listen to that? Now, what you've done right now is you've created a situation where you're coming in as human, and you're coming in with a bold proposition that I'm not going to change the way I see truth. Whether you hear it or not, this is what I'm going to tell you. And when you come from that position, there's going to be a level of respect for both sides. A level of respect from you because you're coming from a truth that you see, and a level of respect from them that you're not judging them anymore because you thought they were rich, poor, tall, skinny, homeless, whatever it is. You are respecting their humanity. And that's a really, really great starting point to have a conversation about this, to have a conversation of where we're going to start looking. The journey becomes an equalizer for both sides at that point. It doesn't matter whether you're the coach anymore. It doesn't matter whether they're the client. It doesn't matter if they're an executive. It doesn't matter if they've never had a job in their life. All that matters is you have something to share that may be valuable for them. And in my experience, that's plenty.